I think there's going to be a big five instead of the big four. I think soccer is going to continue to make a big dent in the market. We see that already.
How many years have you been saying that, Joe?
Well, we're seeing it. We're seeing it now. I mean, we break hundreds and hundreds of cases of
But is
soccer.
this also World Cup year?
It's 2022.
Okay.
But I mean, on Tim's site, just in the last week, we've seen a lot of movement on people buying up Messi parallels and Ronaldo parallels, and Mbappe stuff has gone crazy in the last 2 weeks. Who's the hot young guy? Yeah. And so, I mean, and it's because the whole world's getting smaller and the international market's coming in, and that's their sport. So
my point on some of these things like soccer is it plays to Tim's strength is that if the long tail isn't working, then it's not there yet. So you're talking about a few players. I think that's great, but unless there's a robust attack on all things soccer and being more completist and looking at the long tail and completing sets and doing these obscure things, then soccer is not a big five yet. Is it there yet, or will it be there this year? To where people are saying, I want to have a set registry soccer thing, and not be the only one in the universe is doing that.
I think, Jim, you're closer to being correct. I consider myself a huge soccer fan, and I've tried to apply my knowledge to make money. And if it's not those three guys, it don't happen. I mean, there are guys that like lead their league in scoring, or they set a record for like a certain amount in a week, and some of their inserts out of 10 don't get $5. It doesn't create. When something happens in soccer, there's no explosion. There's no movement attached to on-field activity like you were talking about in baseball. In baseball, it's almost instantaneous. In football, it's instantaneous. In soccer, it's not even happening on the season level. I mean, people are doing things that have never been done in the sport, and it doesn't translate to them getting hot in the sport.
Is it because the MLS in America is not really what's called a prime league, like in the European leagues, and we don't feel the same? We don't feel the same because it's hard. You either have to get up ridiculously early in the morning to watch the games, or you.
But people are doing that. But that is happening on ridiculous. Forget MLS isn't even worth talking about when it comes to cards. Right. I mean, that's just like a non-factor when
it's easier to watch soccer around the world than ever before. I mean, ESPN Plus has dozens of leagues. I can watch the Indian Premier League if I want to, the Australian Premier League, Italy, Germany. You can watch anything you want now. It's 10 years ago,
including free. Your answer to that had to be paid. Correct. Now there's a lot of that is even free.
Correct. Yeah.
And it's not 6 a.m. A lot of times it's 9 and 10. Yeah. Europe has figured it out. They have their 3 o'clock game, which ends up being our 9 a.m. game, and they have their 7 p.m. game, which is our 1 o'clock.
When I first started watching 10, 15 years ago, the Champions League final was on like a Wednesday night, and now it's on Saturday afternoon on Fox or NBC.
Right.
So the sport is definitely growing here. I don't know. I agree with Dave, though, that, and it's growing in the hobby, too, so I agree with Joe, but it's still not, what Dave is saying is very true. There's still not
They're not player collectors like there are in other sports.
But if Jeff is right, and there's some sharp tech entrepreneurs attacking this issue, if they solve it for a few players in one sport, they've in effect solved it for all sports and all players. If they can bring this dynamic element into this daily fix, because then you don't need to follow the sport. I mean, you'll follow sports so you get an edge, but it's going to track with what's going on. And so instead of looking at a bunch of soccer cards and not knowing who's who, there's going to be a marketplace or some kind of a situation where you can get a read on what's going on right now and what the 30-day trend is and all that. Again, if they solve that for baseball, basketball, football, it's solved for soccer as well. And when it is, then soccer, then every player, it's kind of like when I did the first price guides, people said, you're not pricing every card, are you? Aren't you just going to do the superstars? I said, no. What really needs to happen is every player needs to be priced. Because even though a bunch of them are common players, and the same price, there's a bunch of them that are different gradations above that. And that's really what happens. When soccer gets to be like that, it's big five. Mm-hmm. Actually, big six, right? NASCAR.
Oh.
Sorry.
You're my NASCAR guy, right?
It still is.
If I can ask you guys,
I'm a baseball guy, but I do NASCAR too.
Over the last couple of years, what have y'all seen percentage growth-wise in your soccer? I'm not asking for proprietary data, but just...
No, I will say 2019, we did very well with soccer, with our sales, far exceeding what we had done in the past couple of years. Immaculate was huge. Even Obsidian, which is getting ready to come out now, the Gold Standard did well. Even Donruss, mainly because we also included the women's national team autographs in there, really helped to prop that up. So, and then of course Prism being Premier League was huge. So, our sales definitely, and sales and sellouts definitely were much different in 2019 versus the previous 4 or 5 years when it was just a World Cup product that may perform.